my name is Brianna, and I will be presenting on the tropical storm Barry in the state of Louisiana in 2019. So the storm started in Kansas on July 2nd as a low pressure thunderstorm that ended up moving to Georgia by the 7th. And then turned to the Florida Panhandle and kind of hung out in the Gulf of Mexico, where it gained steam in order to eventually become a Class 1 hurricane. But it didn't continue as that for very long before turning back into just a regular tropical storm. Louisiana reported sustained winds of 62 kT, and the highest measured storm surge from Barry was 6.13 feet above the normal tide levels. This was measured near the Eugene Island in Louisiana. The heaviest rainfall occurred over south central and southwestern Louisiana, so kind of around the, foot part of the boot, and accumulated 10 to 15 inches of rain. Accumulations of 10 to 15 inches of rain were widespread. And the maximum reported storm total rainfall was 23.5 inches near Ragley, Louisiana. Hurricane Barry, or Tropical Storm Barry, was actually detected a week before making any sort of landfall. Some of the key players included the governor of Louisiana, Louisiana Department of Health, President Trump, news anchors, hurricane trackers, private organizations, citizens of Louisiana and Alabama who were affected by the storm, the Louisiana Director of Homeland Security, first responders, and those who were managing the emergency around the clock as the storm was going on at their incident command center in Louisiana, and FEMA had high involvement as well. So some of the roles, not all of them, but some of them included the Louisiana Department of Health sent out vaccination and medical advice related to some of the downstream effects of flooding, particularly infectious diseases, kind of telling people what they should be aware of and the things that they should be asking their doctors, and at what point they need to seek medical advice. NPR gave updates, including resources for people. The New Orleans mayor held several press conferences with vital information and instructions. The conferences seem to have clear and consistent messaging. Part of the messaging in them as well was that people could text a certain number for updates and different questions that they had, and 65,000 people actually signed up for that. So that had really great reach. First responders were huge players across Louisiana. 93 people had to be rescued due to flooding. FEMA provided a bunch of additional resources to aid in their recovery, and several private organizations got involved as well for additional support as needed. Some of the preparation also included the governor of Louisiana encouraging everyone to take the storm very seriously. Again, this message was conveyed by mayors and other people in the city as well. The governor issued a state of emergency due to the amount of water forecasted to hit. And then President Trump issued a federal emergency so that the state had access to federal resources. Some of these Resources included 3,000 National Guard troops being sent. The overall messaging was that there would be life-threatening flash flooding. In Alexandria, a major shelter was set up for people and pets. People were warned that if they didn't take their pets and just left them at home to go shelter elsewhere, that they would be prosecuted. So there were protections for pets as well, which I think is really great. This is one of my favorite things that happened. The Department of Homeland Security sent out messaging that basically said their priority was for people to live, and that they wouldn't be enforcing immigration initiatives or anything like that associated to evacuations or sheltering, unless there was some huge public safety threat. So I really like this because it reached kind of a super at-risk population and created some safety there. And then the American Red Cross also set up shelters. There was a message or a number that people could text to find the nearest shelter to them. So really just a lot of systems were in place during the preparation time. Some of the results of Tropical Storm Barry included 18 inches of rain in some areas of Louisiana. New Orleans got 3 inches of rain. Louisiana suffered anywhere from $200 and $400 million in damages just due to flood losses, and then an additional $300 to $500 million due to wind-related damages. And then overall, they suffered about $900 million in damages as a state. Some of their strengths included just that it was, overall, it was a major success for them. They had recently set up an incident command center that, again, they had 50 people staffed at throughout the entire course of the storm. And in it, they were using the ICS framework to respond and maintain emergency protocols. And then in the New Orleans press conferences, the day they expected the storm to hit, they were conveying a message of gratitude and value for people, which really just harnessed like a relationship of trust between kind of what the state and the citizens were saying in the media and everything. And I think that really helped to get people on board with the precautionary measures needed. There was also sign language used in that press conference, which we saw was an issue with a press conference in a different storm, because you lose a whole population of people who really don't have any other access if there isn't sign language. So they increased their reach of people by doing that. They talked about, again, that number for texting, that people could text for questions and updates, and 65,000 people actually signed up for that. So they just had huge reach with that. And then overall, yeah, there were just those clear and concise and quick messages being sent out that we've seen is so important in an emergency. They were the first, the government was the first to respond. They had clear messages, they were consistent, and they kept people well updated. And most importantly, I think we can say that it's a success when there's no mortality, and there was 0 mortality reported that was associated with the actual storm. Some future advice would include that there was a overestimate of how much flooding there would be. Obviously people were overwarned, so it helped to get people to take those precautionary measures, which is good, but in the future there could be better technology to detect this information. Some of the forecasts said that there would be 1 to 2 feet of rain, whereas in most places they saw 1 to 3 inches of rain, or as some of the most flooded areas had 5 to 10 inches of rain. So really a stark contrast from the 1 to 2 feet of rain that they were saying there was going to be. And then here is a list of my references. Thanks so much for watching.